Is timeout for a 1-year-old a good idea? They might be drawing on the walls, hitting you, throwing their food, screaming, putting things in the toilet, pulling the cat's tail, or running into the street. Likely, all you're wanting is for them to just stop doing these things, right? If you're looking for discipline made easy, this one's for you. Hello, I'm Cassie from Custom Built Parenthood. If we haven't met yet, I have 3 kiddos ages 7, 5, and 1, and I've dedicated my life to child development. I'm now a stay-at-home homeschooling mom, and I'm always looking for more ways to understand my kids better and to enjoy parenting. If you want to join me on this adventure, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, and just start teaching me what you have learned in your parenting journey so far. So I don't know any statistics, but I would guess that timeouts are one of the most common discipline techniques out there for toddlers, if not the most common. We probably all know by now that spanking is absolutely not okay or helpful at all, so timeouts are naturally the go-to fix everything approach. Today we'll be looking at the research on timeouts, then diving deep into the best way to discipline your 1-year-old. Be sure to stick around until the end when I'll take the overwhelm out of this and leave you with an easy direction moving forward. So how do you discipline your 1-year-old? Timeouts are a widely used discipline technique for toddlers and honestly, maybe even older kids too. It seems logical and maybe it's effective sometimes, and honestly, it's just an easy knee-jerk reaction for anything our kid does. But timeouts for a 1-year-old are rarely the most effective option and can actually be quite damaging. What research has shown is that when done the right way, giving your kid a timeout can be effective to reduce child abuse. This right way is when parents use timeouts infrequently for just a few minutes, doing it with care and kindness and not isolating the child. When done properly, the parent is less likely to lose control. So do you notice how all of the focus on kind of all those statements, all the focus is on the parent and keeping them from doing something awful, which has a time and a place. Like it's saying, if it's used and done the right way, that is a very good thing to protect your child from yourself if you're totally losing control. But did you also notice that nothing was mentioned about the effectiveness of teaching the kid anything by using timeouts? So the main problem with timeouts is that parents are using them too often and doing it out of anger or punishment. Usually, all that's getting achieved from a timeout is your child feeling negatively towards you instead of actually realizing what they've done wrong and wanting to do something better in the future. While we're here, a quick word about spanking. In case you haven't heard, spanking is absolutely unacceptable and ineffective. All it's doing is modeling aggression and instilling fear and distrust as opposed to your child actually listening and respecting you. Spanking might stop the behavior in the short term, but long term it causes a lot of problems for you, for them, and for your relationship. The takeaway from these 2 forms of discipline is that we need to make discipline about our 1-year-old, not us. We feel upset, so we want to punish them, or they did something wrong, so we want them to feel shame about that. Or they're acting out of line, so we want to show them who's boss. This is all the wrong way to approach discipline, so let's learn the right way. What should discipline look like? Discipline means imparting knowledge and skill, in other words, to teach. So discipline should look like teaching. It shouldn't look like punishment. It shouldn't look like you don't care about what your kid is doing. It should look like teaching. In order to achieve this, like many things in parenting, it starts with our frame of mind. So I'm going to pull a few key phrases and principles from No Drama Discipline, which is a phenomenal resource. If you're wanting an in-depth look at discipline, I will definitely link that book in the description below. I would highly recommend it. So right off the bat, when our 1-year-old does something that warrants some discipline, there are 3 simple questions to ask ourselves. Why did my child act this way? What lesson do I want to teach in this moment? And how can I best teach this lesson? These questions remind us of who our child is and what they are needing from us. Remember, they're the student and we're the teacher. So why, what, and how? Why did my child act this way? Well, he might have been drawing on the walls because he found a marker laying around and he felt like drawing. Or he might be throwing his food because he's all done eating and he's feeling bored. Or he's pulling the cat's tail because he has zero concept that that's unkind. Another option, as an answer to most of these scenarios, is because he's one. He's doing that because he's one. This is actually going to be an accurate statement for just about anything that your child is doing, but more on that later. Okay, so we answered the why. Next is the what. What lesson do I want to teach in this moment? I want to teach him that walls aren't for drawing on. I want to teach him that food isn't for throwing. And I want to teach him to be soft with animals. So with why and what out of the way, now we finish with how. How can I best teach this lesson? With a 1-year-old, my go-to personally is the ABCs that I've talked about before. Acknowledge, boundary, and choice. So acknowledge what they're wanting and feeling. Set a clear boundary, then give them a choice, one of which you control. So for the how, I get down on my 1-year-old's level so I can look them in the eye and I say, you really want to draw. Walls aren't for drawing on. Would you like to draw on paper, or should we put the marker away? Or you really want to throw your food. Food isn't for throwing. Would you like to clear your dish, or should I? Or you want to pet the cat. Soft with animals. Would you like to give soft pets or go play with toys? So these ABCs are something I came up with for my toddler, but they are right in line with Daniel Siegel, who's the author of this book, his concept of connection first no matter what. You should always be connecting with your child before doing anything else. So all of this is great on paper, right? But even if I go through these questions, I'm still probably pulling my hair out thinking, why won't my kid listen? So let's talk about Siegel's concept, won't versus can't. In any given situation, ask yourself, does the way my child's acting make sense considering their age and the circumstances? More often than not, the answer will be yes. So first, let's talk about their age. When your kid is just 1 year old, they are lacking some serious life experience. They lack verbal skills and are experiencing a lot of things for the very first time. So let's say the thought just crossed their mind how fun it would be to drive their boat in the toilet. So of course, they're going to give it a try. Chances are that no matter how exactly I respond to this, it's only a matter of time before my toddler is going to try this again. And again, and again. Surely parents everywhere out there can back me up on this. Seriously, actually let me know in the comments below, what are the things or the thing that your toddler does over and over and over again? For me, it's like, how many times do I have to clean up a water mess that my 1-year-old has made? Climbing up and turning on the faucets, opening the water dispenser, turning on bathtubs. Oh my gosh, it is out of control. So the first time they do this, they're just curious, right? They're making sense of the world, needing to learn and explore and figure out how everything works. But what about all those times after that? So in my opinion, one explanation is that they enjoy it. And they don't have the capacity to just leave it alone. My son's really into a water phase right now, so that doesn't stop being fun to him. And he's really too young to have the impulse control to just leave it alone. So that's why he's doing it over and over and over again. Another explanation might be that they still have more to learn about this thing that they're doing. So I recently heard a therapist say that we as humans will keep making a mistake until we've learned what we need to learn from it. So it could be that your 1-year-old still needs to experiment a few more times, pushing the laundry basket down the stairs to just see what happens. Who knows? Maybe it's going to do something different this time. Versus maybe touching the stove and getting burned one time and never wanting to try that again. They learned on their own everything they need to learn about that experience, and they're not going to do it again. So even if your 1-year-old is getting older and you feel like they're starting to be more defiant versus curious, this still falls under the normal category. I'm always talking about what's developmentally appropriate, which just means that it's normal, expected, and healthy. So this longing for independence and testing the boundaries is totally healthy. As we're teaching them, we are building skills, and so much of our role is just letting their development unfold. It's completely normal and likely for it to take a ton of consistent responses before they learn what we're wanting them to learn. So don't get too worried about it. So remember, the question I'm asking myself is, does the way my child's acting make sense considering their age and the circumstances? So we've talked about their age. Let's touch on circumstances. I would say that a 1-year-old's tolerance is gonna be pretty low. Disruptions in schedules, long rides in the car, too many outings, someone taking their toy, all of these circumstances affect their ability to do what we want them to do. It is so easy to get frustrated that yesterday they totally listened and stopped screaming, and today they're carrying on like they can't even hear me. Just realize that this is human nature. We're not robots, and neither are they. So just like us, their circumstances affect their capacity to handle life. Are we patient and loving every single minute of every day? I know I'm not. Sometimes I lose my patience, and some days I just feel kind of off. Why is that? Why am I not always choosing to be the world's best mom? Well, usually because of my circumstances. Sometimes I'm stressed, distracted, tired, or triggered by something. Our capacity to handle situations well and make good decisions fluctuates according to the circumstances and the context of any situation. So if you realize that this is the case for you too, I can tell you it is certainly the case for your 1-year-old, so try to give him a break sometimes. So be intentional to recognize won't versus can't. He just won't listen. He won't stop tantruming. He won't take turns. Likely all of these statements transform into can'ts when you factor in his age and his circumstances. He can't listen right now, he's with his cousins, so there are a lot of distractions. He can't stop tantruming right now because we've been at the store way too long and I can tell he's needing to be done. He can't take turns because he doesn't have that capacity or skill yet. This is quite a powerful mindset shift that not only helps prevent us from lashing out at our toddler, but it will also save us a lot of frustration and heartache thinking that there's something wrong with our kid or our parenting. Okie dokie, I totally get that all of this sounds great in theory, but in reality, situations happen so fast and it is way too overwhelming to always do and say the perfect thing. So here is Discipline Made Easy. I've got a couple simple action steps for you to do right now to help it feel more doable. First, get a few sticky notes and write discipline equals teaching on them. Put these in a few areas of your house to just remind you what the purpose is and why you're doing what you're doing. Next, I want you to pick one scenario that comes up quite often that you feel the need to discipline. Play out the scenario in your head and ask yourself why, what, how. Why does my child act this way? What lesson do I want to teach in those moments? And how can I best teach that lesson? Come up with a game plan and a script, and remember, you got to keep it super short, use really basic words because you're talking to a 1-year-old, remember, and be totally consistent. You can totally use my ABCs as an example if you want. Once you have it written out, just focus on this one instance for the next little while. Be ready for this scenario at any given moment, and anytime it comes up, just go on autopilot with your game plan and the script that you've made. For now, don't even worry about saying the perfect thing or handling those situations perfectly all the other times. Just picking one thing and getting it down pat will really help you gain some confidence and some momentum. And then you just keep adding scenarios under your belt one at a time as you're ready. It really just takes practice, and slow and steady does win the race. You really are doing amazing. Keep up the awesome work, and we will see you next time.